I think it's important for us to understand where this entire war came from. It did not come from Bashar al-Assad. It came from Washington. There was a decision in 2011 to overthrow Assad. Actually, that came from Jerusalem. This has been a desire of the Israeli government that stretches back more than 25 years. Netanyahu's idea is make the Middle East in Israel's image, overthrow every government that opposes Israel. He's had a friend in that, and that is the CIA and the United States government. So this war in Syria did not come from Assad's repression. It did not come from Assad's dictatorship. This war came from a presidential order by Obama to overthrow Assad, starting in the spring of 2011. We have a name for this program. It was Operation Timber Sycamore. The United States, together with other countries in this region, trained fighters, especially jihadists, including the ones that just took power, to overthrow the regime. This created chaos. 600,000 dead in Syria in a war that has gone on for 14 years. The outcome of this war is what the CIA wanted back in 2011, which is that a jihad group would take power in Syria after being armed by the United States. The Syrian war is just one of 6 wars that Israel has promoted, including in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan. We had the list, actually, from Wesley Clark back in 2001, when he was handed a paper in the Pentagon that the goal was 7 wars in 5 years. The only war that hasn't taken place yet, to Netanyahu's great consternation, is the US war with Iran, which Israel is still trying to instigate to this very day.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's special stream with our dear friend, Akeel Hanano. First of all, I have to introduce to you Akeel. When the war started in Syria in 2011, I was 21 years old. And he was I was in a younger generation and he was in an older generation. At times of doubt and at times of ignorance, Akeel used to keep me in touch with reality, and I learned personally a lot from him. And today I'm very, very happy actually to have him on this show. Dear friend Akeel, I just want to tell you that you met me recently on X. You told me you're happy to see me still active. I have never left the social media and my media activism. I only deactivated Facebook for certain reasons, and I will come back soon, inshallah, again on Facebook as well. But your contribution, in my opinion, has been very important, and it is still very important because I see that there is a mass psychosis, basically, like a hibernation of many in Syria or among the Syrian people. I see that people celebrate the demise of their nation. I see people celebrate the occupation of their country via many multinational corporations, via the imperialists who occupied the country and looted the natural resources of this region, including our neighboring country in Iraq. So I was telling you the other day, I said, my friend, I feel like we hit the bottom of the dustbin of history, and there are still people scratching the bottom of the dustbin of history. What has went wrong for the Syrian people? I'm not asking about the conspiracies, because conspiracies exist. What happened? What went wrong with the Syrian people to see that people see the reality is flipped, basically?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored to be with you and with your guests. But actually, what happened to the Syrian people is 14 years of war. 14 years of embargo, 14 years your passport doesn't allow you to travel anywhere. It's like they wanted the Syrian people to stay under the knife in Syria, to suffer, to just give up everything and every belief and every connection to this country. So when the Syrian government fell, people thought this is the end of it. Now we're going to see something new. Now we're going to have some release. To their surprise, it became worse than what it was before. So, and I was expecting this, to be honest with you, when you see 130 countries call themselves the friend of Syria, support the armed and the terrorist, and they ship everybody to your country to topple the government. I do not see Syria lost the war. I think we won militarily because we stayed in this war for 14 years, more than the World War I and II combined. But we lost in gaining the inside because we did not have any resources to provide. So when we lost the control in Syria, when the government lost the control of Syria, and I'm not saying this, I'm a pro-Assad or pro this or that. No, I'm talking about the reality. The government of Syria was providing to the Syrian people the necessity and the basic need for every individual in Syria. This is nobody could deny. That need has been cut off. When the American came and took the oil, we start struggling for fuel during the winter to stay warm. When the Turkish cut the water on our land, we lost also the agriculture resources. We used to have 5 years of food security. We had wheat stored for another 5 years to be used. The first thing they attacked, so-called revolutionary, they attacked the storage area of the wheat. And then the first thing they attacked the radar stations in Aleppo and then in the Golan Heights. So all this indicated that there is a planned, organized effort from everybody, Arab, Muslim, European, everybody, to topple the government of Syria. Syria, the uniqueness of Syria, I think it's not only the geographic location of Syria, but also the position it took against the occupation, against the Zionist entity in the near our border. From that point, they offered President Assad, the father and the son, all kind of concession. Just give up the resistance to the Zionist entity, and you will get whatever you want. And as you know, during Hafez al-Assad rule, they offered him the peace with the Prime Minister Barak of the Zionist entity, and the only dispute was a couple of meters of Kunaitra lake, and he refused. Later on, nobody knew, why did you refuse? It's a few meters. I mean, we could have established peace. But his explanation was, according to what I heard, that if the water in Konaitra in the lake got dried, that's more land gained by the Zionists and closer they became to us. So either we get everything we lost in 76, or there is no peace. The struggle will continue.
Yes.
So the story of Syria is the final chapter of the Arab Spring. I call it the Hebrew Spring, to be honest with you, the Zionist Spring in Syria. And then you look at since the spring, the Arab Spring, the so-called Arab Spring started in 2010, 2011 until now, and you look at all the government and who collapsed, from Egypt to Tunisia, from Libya to Iraq, from Morocco to Palestine, nothing good came out of it. Even with the peace treaty they signed, from Camp David to Wadi Araba with Jordan to Oslo with the Palestinian, nothing good came out of it. So people who were depending on the West to end their struggle did not know that the struggle just started with the Jolani taking over.
Yes, but this is on a geopolitical level. This is how they have orchestrated a war against Syria, against the Syrian people. They have deprived them of their natural resources. They have waged an economic warfare. They occupied. They had boots underground. They had proxy armies. I'm also talking about we are Syrians, and we can see clearly that there is intellectual and moral decay among Syrians. They hold Syrian citizenship, right? And we see the type of the rhetoric, the narratives, how they see the conflict in Syria. It's not the same way that me and you see the conflict, right? Which is the geopolitical lens, the historical lens. Why I'm asking what went wrong, because we see a considerable number of Syrian people refusing to see this reality, even if you put a document in front of his eyes, or even if you show him a recording of John Kerry saying, oh, we were happy seeing ISIS expanding in Syria because we thought this is a good idea because now we can exert pressure on Assad. We have documents after documents after documents and confessions, but there are people refusing to acknowledge the reality. And this is what I'm asking for. Is it only about, is it ideological? Is it sectarian hatred? What has gone wrong in the country that many people nowadays, when I try to argue with them on social media, they come and tell me, and those are Jolani supporters, in Arabic, awiyulak, which means bark. They're telling us to bark, but we don't speak their language. Barking, we speak. We are trying to have a civilized conversation.
Right. I think, Kevork, what happened is the need for living. People in Syria now paying for the 1 kilo of bread more than 4,000 lira. On the 7th of December, the same amount of bread was priced at 400. Prior to that, there was lack of job, lack of income, lack of travel, lack of anything, lack of hope. And the media and the part of the propaganda they portrayed is everything is because Assad. Once Assad goes, heaven will open up. And people believe this. And they said, okay, so Assad is gone. Now let's see what's going to happen. And I think most of those people who dance in the street for the fall of the government, now they realize that, but they are too stubborn to admit it. So whenever you talk to them about the fact on the ground today, what happened, the increase of the price, 800% on electricity bill. And then Jolani comes said, we will give a concession to the industrial section by reducing it 200%. Yes. But still the increase is 500%, 600% then. Yes. Nobody pays attention to this stuff. So people are in a dire need to live normally, to go back to the norm, which is never going to happen as long as the Jolani is in charge. Something else, every time you talk to them, like you said, they start calling you with these names because it's racism. When they fed the idea that Alawi is ruling against Sunni, and the Sunni were, have a lot of things happen to them during the era of Assad 1 and 2, they don't realize that the 90% of the government were Sunni. I mean, I just recently learned that the brother-in-law of President Assad, Asif Shaukat, is Sunni.
Yes, he was.
I mean, I did not know that, And then you look at Ali Mamlouk, who is the head of the security. All the security in the government is Sunni. Prime Minister is Sunni. Secretary of State is Sunni. Interior is Sunni. 90% of the mayors are Sunnis. So the idea that it's a Sunni and Alawi, it's something fed to them, and they thought once the Alawi goes, then we're gonna have heaven open up. Like I said, racism. The function of racism is distraction. So every time you talk to them, that this Sunni guy is doing worse than what you accused Assad of doing, and Assad is a page, and we just fold it. It's no longer in the scene. He is no longer influential. He is not interfering in anything. So now is a Sunni guy ruling. Tell me what's the good happened to you since he took over? Nothing. To the contrary, he is selling the country in whole and parts to everybody who asks to give.
Yes. And this is one of the examples, for example, who come now also to our streams. راح حبيبك على موسكو الحقه لهونيك ولا تعوي كتير. This is, he's saying, your beloved one fled to Moscow, go after him and don't bark. The problem is that we don't speak your language. نحن ما بنحكي اللغة تبعتك. يعني نحن هون عندنا نقاش حضاري، فالعواء هو الأشخاص يعني هن بيجيدوا العواء ونحن اللي بنعوي حبيبي.
No, you know, Kevork, there is something historical they don't know. Even the كلمة عواء, this is fed to them by the Turks. The Turks used it against the Armenian community in Skandaron and against the Alawi community in Skandaron.
Wow.
During the prosecution of Alawi and Armenia in Turkey, this exact word was used by the Turk forces against them to humiliate them and let them feel they are nobody.
Yes.
The people in charge of Syria now use the same words, which tells you they are an agent of Turkey. And Jolani is an agent of everybody.
Yes.
I mean, I never seen a president take over a country after 14 years war, and he traveled outside the country more than what he stayed in it.
Yeah.
It's beyond belief, and people still cheering him.
It looks like he is gaining more legitimacy, or trying to gain his legitimacy from the outside powers, rather than basing his legitimacy on the people itself in the country. The country is completely wrecked. I'm talking about the social fabric, the people. If you ask the people nowadays, Akeel, in Syria, and I'm talking to people in Syria, of course, many people are afraid to speak up. They don't write anything on social media platforms because now we are a free and democratic country, between quotations. But people nowadays prefer balkanization over living with under the Jolani regime. And this is a situation where, for example, I speak with friends in Sweden, and they tell me at gunpoint, we cannot under any circumstances to live alongside these monsters who came and killed thousands of our people. And the same goes to the Alawites. And if you ask the Kurds, they would do the same. So we had a situation where people said we have political authoritarianism under Assad, but everybody used to live and coexist together. And when the people said, okay, we don't want this political authoritarianism. Now we want what? A theocratical authoritarianism? What is the nature of this governance nowadays in Syria? On the surface, they say we're going into democracy. But what I'm seeing with practices on the ground, it seems that we have downgraded the political system in Syria. And at no time we can upgrade with this mentality. We're talking about a very exclusionary mentality. And on the popular base of Jolani, the popular base of Jolani are ahead of him. They're telling him to commit genocide. They're telling him that he cannot compromise to the other components of the Syrian people. So how can we reach into formula to coexist again under this geography? In my opinion, with Jolani in power, it's impossible.
Well, to be honest with you, Kevork, I really don't see, even if the Jolani leaves, that we could reach that point where everybody agree on the principle. I think what we are lacking in Syria today is the nationalistic figure we could rally around. We don't have a person who could unite us behind him, who could speak our pain, who could speak for our country, who could speak for our ambition. The lack of that drive people, every sect and every community, to decide on its own. I'm going to have my own country. I have to have my own enclave. I'm going to have my own rule. That it's not going to happen, because if it would have approved by the Western occupying power in Syria, they would have approved it in Iraq. They would have approved it in Libya. They would have approved it in Lebanon. They would have approved it everywhere they have influence. They don't want the burden of supporting those new countries everybody trying to create. Syria will stay a one country, not because only we don't want to divide it, but because the West, who has the power to support it, is not willing to support it. You know, and I think what we witnessed, the massacre of the Alawi and the Druze, and I think now the next one coming up soon, it's the Sunni against Sunni.
Yes.
You're going to have Sunni who are the jihadists, who are with the Jolani, who will fight the Sunni who are rejecting their view of how to rule the country and view of what Islam is. So the war just started, and that's why I keep saying we need to educate people that you on your own will never be able to survive.
Yes.
We together we could survive. People will tell you nothing's going to happen until the Sunni move. Well, Sunni don't. If you are waiting on the Sunni move, I'm going to take you back to 1948 until this day. Palestine is Sunni in total. What did the Sunni community did to them in the Arab world? Nothing, because we are not able to do anything. You know, the Sunni everywhere who are prosecuted. I didn't see any other Sunni government who went to help. Nobody.
Just a
So
year ago, 70,000 Palestinians perished. It's still ongoing.
it's not
So
70. According to United Nations, over
yes,
120,000.
those are the official numbers of what they say
And those,
Hamas ran health ministry. But
correct.
all these numbers, all this killing happened in Palestine. We haven't seen the so-called jihadists saying that we are going to march to Jerusalem or we're going to save our Palestinian brothers. But they were very enthusiastic in Syria.
Well,
And
actually, just to be honest with you, Jolani said after Damascus, we're going to go to Jerusalem. But
as a normalizer.
yeah, he stopped saying he is going to Jerusalem is to sign the peace treaty with Israel, you know, not to fight. I challenge anybody to tell me a single battle Muslim Brotherhood or ISIS or Al Nusra fought against the Israeli. You will not see in their history a bullet out of their gun targeted anybody except local Syrian, Muslim, Christian, and Alawi.
Yeah, I agree. And they also went to Israeli hospitals and received this medical
Correct.
treatment. But now
Correct.
we have a new situation. Jolani says that Syria has become a geopolitical ally with the United States, and the people who are lobbying in the United States, for example, we have Tariq Naimo. Tariq Naimo is doing lots of lobbying work there in order to bring the new Syrian regime under the umbrella of the United States. Like they're doing lots of meetings with Donald Trump and his team. So this is peace through strength and peace through prosperity, according to these lobbies. Why we reject this type of peace with the United States? Are we against a peace? What should be our position, the natural position with the United States when it comes to alliances?
You ask anybody in the Arab world, regardless of their nationality, would you like to go to America? Everybody will tell you, I'd love to. America is a dream of immigrant. America is a great country if you deal with its society. But when it comes to the politics of it, the politician of United States don't care about their own country. Every decision made on the international arena goes against the interest of United States. People are start to wake up in United States to the fact that their foreign policy is hostage to the interest of foreign countries, not the interest of United States. Well, you said that they are trying to legitimize Jolani. They can't. Simple question. The answer to it will tell you the whole story. Jolani has been supported by Turkey, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, France, United States. Tell me what's the name of any ambassador to Jolani in any of these countries? None. None. Because according to international law, the ambassador of any country is the representative of the president of that country, not the foreign ministry.
Yes.
Okay? So if he cannot appoint a single ambassador for himself in all the country he is traveling to, tells you that these countries receiving him as an agent to take order from them, not as a president. The biggest clear proof to that is the way he entered the White House yesterday.
This is what I wanted to ask, yes.
Yeah. There is no flag, no Syrian flag, old or new. Actually, the old one appeared on the news media when they were talking about him in the background,
Yes.
not the green
News.
one. Correct.
Yeah.
There was no red carpet. There was no military salute. He went through the servant entrance because he is a servant. And then he goes inside and sits like a student before the principal, receiving the instruction. At the same time he arrived, next day, they called the Secretary of State of Turkey. And that tells me there is a deal. They want both parties to agree to it before they implement it on the ground. Do not give them a chance to say, I didn't know about this, or I knew about this, or nobody told me. So they brought the Turk and their agent, Jolani, and laid down the rules on the ground. I just remember something when I mentioned Turkey. All of a sudden, Russia now is part of the deal.
Yes.
And I think Russia got involved after coordination with the United States. The Zionist entity is always expanding its flying zone and bombing even Turkish troops in Homs and in Aleppo twice. And they killed, at least according to the news, more than 19 Turkish troops. Turkey didn't say a word because United States told them to shut up, they will handle it. So the way they handle it, they asked Putin to take care of the coast area and part of the central area of Homs. This area will be the buffer zone controlled by the Russian between the Turk and the Zionist entity on the other side. So now the Syrian territory is completely divided between three occupiers. Actually, it's four occupiers. Russia now become an occupying power because there is no way, if there is no coordination between the United States and Russia, that Russia could stay in its bases in Syria.
Yes.
Simple question could be posed by Jolani asking the Russian troops to move, and then the United Nations will consider the Russian presence there as an occupation and start campaign against them.
Yes.
But none of this happened, which tells you there is cooperation between the Russian and the American, and I think that was part of the collapse of the Syrian government according to certain deal struck between Russia and America, and accordingly Syria was dismantled. And I think, I'm sorry, and I think Mr. Putin is getting more ground in Ukraine versus the ground he lost or the privileges he lost in Syria at the beginning of the war.
Yeah, that is beyond, in my opinion, absurd to give up on Syria if you're a Russian and you invested so much in Syria for you to have a foothold inside the country and in the entirety, most of the Syrian territory, basically. And you have a fleet in the Mediterranean. Now you are no longer the dominant power in Syria. You are part of the game. You're not setting the rules of the game. Yeah. I understand that Ukraine is an existential threat for them and they would like to have the upper hand there as well. But sooner or later, this is my opinion, when Turkey emboldens itself in Syria through its proxies, one of which is Jolani, and when they open this corridor between Nakhichevan and Azerbaijan, connecting Turkey to Azerbaijan, and which means an overland access to the Caspian Sea and into Central Asia, then Erdogan will make his move against Russia and they will try to kick the Russian forces out of Syria, and which means Russia will be isolated again in the Black Sea. So when I see this calculation, whoever made this decision, whether it's Putin, whether it's Lavrov, or whoever, the military in Russia, I don't see that they will gain much out of this deal. And I know that Russia was part of this deal. It was quite obvious that Russia accepted this new reality in Syria, but it gives a bad image for Russia. Like, you came to save your ally, the former regime in Syria, and now not only the regime is gone, the genocidal campaign of Jolani against the ethnic and religious minority in the country, which you said you came to protect as well at the beginning, is still ongoing. So reputational wise, Russia also lost credibility as a protector of its allies. So I truly see it's a very, very bad decision-making of Russia in Syria.
Even though Putin and Lavrov themselves stated so many times in so many interviews, we are not here to protect the Assad regime. We are here to protect the institution of the government falling into the terrorist hand. And what they did, they collaborated 100% and allowed. Even what's his name, Jolani himself said it in an interview. He said, we talked to the Russian and they said, if you reach Hama, you proceed to Homs. Once you get to Homs, the road to Damascus is open for you. That's Jolani talking about what the Russian told him. So the cooperation between them was wide open before they even leave Idlib. And the
Yes.
Russian has a huge hand in the Syrian army, and they are the one who gave the order to dismantle and go back home.
Hmm.
We made mistake. Syria made a huge mistake. We made mistake internally. We made mistake with our allies, giving them more than what they should have. We gave our sovereignty before the fall of our government when we gave the power to the Russian to decide for the army where to go, where to fight, and when to fight.
Hmm.
We should have taken care of Idlib from day one instead of waiting because of a deal between Turkey and Russia was trying to be made on our expense. So we are talking about everybody who played in the Syrian arena, but at the same time, we are number one at fault before
Yes.
anybody else. We are the one who allowed all this to happen.
Don't you also think, besides Russia, Iran also persuaded the former Syrian regime to accept this Astana deal, which is the conflicting zones, one of which is the escalation zones, one of which was in Idlib. And every time we tried to move into Idlib, both Iran and Russia were telling the former president of Syria to shake hands with Erdogan. The
Turkey.
pressure was coming from Iran and Russia alike.
Kevork, I need to remind you in 2015, I believe, when the nuclear deal was going to be signed between Iran and Syria. If you remember that area, that time zone, Iran pulled its ambassador from
Hmm.
Syria for 2 months under the request of John Kerry, telling them this will show great flexibility on your end for the local or the area, the Arab, the Middle East policy. So if you do it, I will get you guaranteed that this deal will be signed by President
Hmm.
Obama and the deal will go through. And they
Hmm.
did. And they stopped all aid was going to Syria for a month and a half to 2 months. Go back into Google, you will see it. So even Iran is playing for its own benefit. And I'm not blaming Iran. I'm blaming us. We are already suffering enough. Giving an inch is not going to clear or cure the situation. We should have steadfast in our demand to liberate Idlib and get those people out or send them back where they come from. 120 to 300,000 mercenary, according to United Nations report, entered Syria from Turkey, Jordan, and Lebanon. Those are more than the army of Tunisia or Morocco.
Yeah.
And we fought him, and we for 14 years, military battle we won, domestic policy we lost.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And by the way, this is an information I mentioned on my show a few times, and I would like to also share it with you. In 2024, Iran stopped also sending fuel to Syria for 2 months because they wanted to persuade Assad to meet with Erdogan. Now
Correct.
that Erdogan moved into Syria and knocked out the Iranian influence completely, now you see Iranian officials are talking badly again about Erdogan. Meanwhile, they were the ones who pushing Syria so much to meet with Erdogan, especially during the last elections. I think the Iranians also made horrible mistakes in this case. And I think Syrians, of course, the first and foremost, we need to blame ourselves in Syria. But at some point, you mentioned now, over 100,000 mercenaries came from all over the world to the country. And those are not some, humanitarian activists. Those are Takfiri jihadi terrorists, some of whom were from Chechnya. They fought against Russia in a decade and two ago. They have accumulated big combat experience, and they became the senior commanders of this so-called revolution in Syria. So at some point, Syria needed its allies, right?
Correct.
Why it feels to me painful, because I didn't expect that we could receive a blow from our allies. And I always argued for and said the relationship between Syria and Russia, for example, is not the same as having a relationship with the United States. With the United States, they don't have any principles. But when it came to Russia, I truly believe during these 14 days of the operations, They took Assad out of the scene, and they dismantled the Syrian army, and they handed over the country to the proxies of Turkey, basically. And this is like a stab, in the back of the Syrians who trusted Russia as a real friend. And I still see Russia as a non-imperialist power. I cannot compare it with the United States, but this experience will put a big stain in the reputation of Russia.
My friend, I'm going to tell you a Chinese say, and I apologize sincerely. Maybe it's not fit for your audience.
خود وقتك.
So the Chinese said the two oldest profession in the world are prostitution and politics. But they never told us what's the difference between them.
Yes.
This is the problem. We trusted our ally as they are ourselves. This is the mistake we made. The ally is there as long as their interest jive with our interest.
Yes.
When their interest go above our interest, we don't count.
Yes.
That's a fact of life. So when we thought Iranians are going to be there, they're going to take our back, and they did. We split blood together, Iranian blood and Syrian blood, and even Russian blood in this war. That's nobody could deny it. But there is a limit to what they could offer, and there should have been no limit for us where to go.
Yes.
That's basically the problem.
Yeah. Kevork Habibi, can you please reformulate your question for Akeel? I couldn't understand your question about what we were doing in support of the Syrian national state sufficient. Can you please rephrase your question before I pose the question, because I couldn't understand it? I will show you a segment from CNN yesterday. And this is coming from, let me show you. So this is on CNN. This is coming by Josh Rogan. Josh Rogan, he works for Washington Post he is the foreign policy expert. And he says Syria is free. Assad was the real terrorist. Trump supports Syria's new president. That's good for Syria and America. I will show you what he says.
Josh Rogan is the lead global security analyst for Washington Post Intelligence, and he joins us now live. Josh, your reaction to this visit, clearly a historic one.
It is a historic day. He's not only the first Syrian president to ever visit the White House, he's the first former terrorist to ever visit the White House and meet with the president. And President Trump made what I would say a very bold and somewhat risky decision to support Syria's transition and to support its new leadership after 14 years of war and 54 years of tyranny. And because President Trump decided to do that, that opened up Syria and the president to every other country in the world. And this is going to, in my opinion, giving Syria the best chance of becoming a successful, stable country in the Middle East. And not only that, it has the best chance of Syria becoming a close friend and ally of the United States and working with us against things like ISIS, as they agreed to do today, which is a pretty big change from the Syria that we knew under Bashar al-Assad, who was a real terrorist and who was best friends with Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah, which is not good.
You predicted where...
So it seems that there is a uni-party consensus in the United States to normalize Jolani, and this is coming on CNN. Like usually they're critical of Trump, but now when it comes to Jolani, it seems that they are in agreement with Trump and his aspiration.
This is the same opinion they stated about Iraq after Saddam Hussein, about Libya after Gaddafi. And I take you to Iraq, for example, and tell you, until now, Iraq, under the embargo imposed on the country during Saddam Hussein rules, Iraq, until now, cannot sell or its gas and oil. Iraq, until now, it import its need from Iran under special agreement. Iraq sells its oil straight to United States. What do you call it? Takrir, without
refining.
Without refining, at $8 or $9 or $10 a barrel, and then United States take it, refine it, and sell it for $40 and $60 a barrel. Same thing happening in Libya. Obama, when he appointed the prime minister to Libya, who was a doctor in Alabama with Libyan roots. He sent him over there as a prime minister. He came back to him after 2 months in a press conference asking for money to pay for the government they just started over there, because United States at the time seized $200 billion worth of oil money for Libya. Obama told him openly in a press conference, you could Google it, I cannot release any money to you because of court order that your government has to be elected representing the people before you get the money. But I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you a loan with low interest rate until you go through the election. And I'm so sorry, until you go through the election, and then we will release the money to you. Until now, there is no election in Libya. And until now, the money is froze. And by the time if election happened in Libya, the interest already ate the $200 billion and they are in debts. So we need to look at the surrounding country of Syria before we build any conclusion that Syria is coming for a good time after we signed up with the American administration.
Yeah. Who will rebuild Syria, Akeel?
The Syrian. Trust me.
But this is what is, let's say, for the best case scenario. But realistically, who's going to rebuild Syria now under Jolani?
With the Jolani, there is no rebuilding for Syria with the Jolani. Iraq, when they occupied Iraq, Halliburton, the company of Cheney, went in there to rebuild. They took loan to rebuild Iraq, put Iraq in more debts. No Iraqi government or private company is part of the rebuilding. No talent, Iraqi or educated engineers were part of the rebuilding. They brought everybody, even the coffee, who serving the coffee was from outside to rebuild, supposedly to rebuild Iraq. This is the scenario they're waiting for us. The lifting of the embargo, it's not lifting of the embargo. According to somebody who understands the international law, they explained it to me. They said Syria under the al-Band al-Sabi', which is part of al-Fasl al-Sabi'. Al-Band al-Sabi', they have the right to immediately implement military forces into Syria without going back to the United Security Council. So, and they put it for 180 days observation. So that means we are already under the mandate of the American. So anything goes in United States, in Syria has to get the approval of United States because of that mandate, okay? And this mandate, 180 days, it's going to stay forever. Even if Jesus Christ himself came and became the president of Syria, the embargo is not going to be lifted, because the target of this war was not the Syrian president or the Syrian government. It was me and you. We need to lose hope. We need to lose any confidence in ourselves. We need to be 100% dependent on the West. When we are dependent on the West, we could live like the Egyptian, like the Iraqi, like the Jordanian. They cannot move without the green light of the American. They want to make us part of that group. And
we already became. Syria has already become.
Exactly.
They had Jolani yesterday on a major news outlet. I think this is the Washington Post. Syrian president details plans to work with Americans he once fought, and they're giving him a nice photo shooting here. And if you check this photo, it's so like as if he's the guy who's in charge and playing the chess here. Like they're really copying the. You remember when the war, the hot war started in Ukraine in 2022, and how they portrayed Zelensky, you know, this hero. Like they're giving him the hero treatment at the current moment to persuade him as much as they can.
By the way, Kevork, chess is kufr in their belief.
It's against the rule of God according to whatever they believe in.
Because you're using your brain.
Yeah, I think nowadays using the brain has become a privilege. Unfortunately, I feel like I'm yelling in void, and I'm sharing just my experience because I have the impression that I prefer talking to an empty wall than discussing with someone who supports Jolani nowadays. I feel that I am you know, ما ناقشت جاهلا وإلا غلبني. It's not like you cannot really discuss someone who sees all this war in Syria from sectarian lens, and also doesn't see me as a Syrian to begin with. They keep telling me that I have to go back to Armenia. I'm truly finding a hard time in finding sane Syrian people to cooperate or stay in touch with, and one of whom is you, you know. It's very, I feel these regional media outlets like Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, Al Hurra, and all these smaller social media accounts have spawned so much in the past years that they propagandize the people beyond belief. They have demoralized them. They promoted this intellectual and moral decay. We don't see on TV outlets two people are talking. They're yelling at each other and they're cursing each other and they are throwing chairs on each other. So this is the political culture now in our region. How can we build a nation with this type? So we will depend on outside forces, as you mentioned. We will be reliant on them. And now Jolani is going to the US and meets with the IMF, the head of the IMF. If the IMF gives money to Syria, we're done. It's finished. For decades.
We are finished. There is a say in politics, the majority, the silent majority.
Yeah.
The silent majority are listening to you and listening to me and listening to people like us. They follow us on X, they follow us on Facebook. They see what they want to say through our words. So don't give up and don't quit.
But why don't they have the courage?
Because 25 million people are not on the same thought, same process, same education, same knowledge. So you do what you have to do because this is what makes you good. This is your loyalty to the country where you are raised. And you keep doing this. I heard in some press conference at the Department, Secretary of Department in the United States saying that the United States nowadays plan their foreign policy according to AI polling. For any country they try to go, they do a polling through the AI, see how many people talking positively about this plan and negatively about this plan. They don't have to ask anybody individually anymore. But when you say something positive towards Syria and I say something positive towards Syria, this is recorded, not by name, but as a single voice added together with the rest of the voices to come up with the consistent, how much this policy would be approved by the people of this country or disapproved. So every word you write and everybody else write to benefit Syria, we need to continue doing this. This is part of resisting.
This is what Kevork asked. Was everything we were doing as individual to support Syria as a nation state sufficient, especially in social media?
Yep, absolutely.
You know, Akeel, this is something that I want to mention because in the past decade, for example, we used to go regularly in front of the US Embassy calling for lifting the sanctions here in Germany. And we participated in conferences, on social media platforms. You know the history of our activism. You were one of the first, right?
Sure.
And we tried to keep the people sane. Like and we wanted them to understand the real root of this conflict in Syria and what do they want from this. Like when I moved to Germany later, many people from the Syrian diaspora who were either here a long time ago or they recently came to Germany, they share my opinion and they used to tell me, Kevork, what are you doing now? You're in Germany, khalas, just live your life. Why are you being so politicized? Why are you talking? Why are you participating? What are you going to gain from it? Yeah, I didn't gain anything. I lost a lot, basically, from my mental and physical health. I lost money. I lost a lot of things. But because I knew 100% that if the regime change happens, this is going to be the consequence of it. So we knew the outcome beforehand. We didn't need some genius analyst to tell us what is going to happen. Now that the regime change happened and Jolani moved against for example, first the Alawites and then the Druze in Sweden, these same people who were very passive in the past 10 years in Germany, now they're the ones participating in the demonstrations. So what I'm trying to say is, unless the harm comes directly to the skin of someone or his family, they don't want to move. They don't want to do, like, if something is not happening in Aleppo, the other day a friend of mine called me and said, why are you criticizing Jolani that much? Nothing is happening in Aleppo. Yeah, if nothing is happening in Aleppo, does it mean that we shouldn't criticize him?
No,
so
but
everybody's
there is a
thinking
lot
very
of,
narrow.
there is a lot of things happening in Aleppo under the control of Turkey. Jolani has no power in Aleppo. That's why Aleppo is calm comparing to the other country, to the other city. Yet there is, since the takeover of Jolani of the country, 10,000 people in Aleppo got killed. 10,000. So if the news does not report it, does not mean it didn't happen. And I need to emphasize to you and everybody else, when we talk about the massacre of Alawi and Druze, we need to mention that the first massacre happened against Christian in the countryside of Hama and the countryside of Homs.
Yeah.
But it was not covered. They did not take picture of themselves committing this heinous crime because they knew the pressure will be on them so hard from their masters. So they did not take picture of them killing Christian or attacking churches or destroying, theirs and so on and so forth. But the Christian as prosecuted as everybody else. And the Sunni Sufi, they are being killed. Their imam has been killed in Aleppo. 3 of them got assassinated.
Yes.
In Damascus is the same thing.
Mufti Hassan is in jail.
Exactly. The middle ground is not allowed. You have to be into the extreme. And the problem, they succeeded in putting, I call it bloodline between our community. And to be straight up with you, I don't doubt in a minute that my neighbor, the Alawi, will be looking at me in suspicion if everything done. Let's say Jolani left tomorrow and everything is peaceful in Syria. I go to live in Syria. The Alawi neighbor will look at me in suspicion. The Christian neighbor will do the same because I'm Sunni. So if I'm Sunni, I'm already targeted or I'm already suspect. We need to overcome this division.
Yeah.
And that's
By the way,
the biggest battle.
Yesterday's show, I told you that I'm going to host Akeel. And you remember what I told you? I said, I never asked him what is his religion. I never asked him what is his sect. I don't know what is he, but I speculate from his name and from his family that probably he is a Syrian from Aleppo. He is a Muslim, he is a Sunni. This is what I told you, right? And now this is the first time, like in our lifetime, we never asked in Syria who is what and what is his religion, what is his sect. As long as you treat me with respect, you will receive nothing but respect from me. So this was the situation in Syria, and I think one of the issues that people always raise and say, yeah, it was tyrannical authoritarianism. I mean, certain level of authoritarianism against the people who would like to start civil war in the country based on sectarianism and ethnic hatred against others. Probably I'm saying it's not a bad idea if there is a certain tyranny against this type of racism, of sectarianism, for the sake of the majority of the Syrians. And once you remove that and you basically empower the radical elements in the country, and this is going to be the result. Even the people who Akeel also mentioned, they're Muslims and Sunnis, and they are in what we call other mazhabs. Like I'm watching videos in mosques. People are fighting and hitting each other inside the mosques because the imam is not as radical as they wish. This is what's the situation right now in Syria. It's like a complete madness. And as we speak about religions, Akeel, this is the last part of our show, and I just want to show you this post because it's really fascinated me. This is coming from the United States during Jolani's visit. Joe Jajati, he's a Syrian Jewish person who was visiting Syria in the past years during the war. He said, I'm sharing a deeply personal perspective on the Syrian president's trip to the US. These moments define the successful new beginning that is close to my heart. The success of the trip and the meeting with the US president is the clear signal we have waited for. A new era of peace and prosperity for our home countries is now reality, and I am determined to see Syria thrive again. As a Syrian American Jew yesterday witnessing the Syrian American Jewish Rabbi Yusuf Hamra blessing the Syrian president at the community meeting was a powerful, unforgettable act of unity. This profound demonstration of community over division is the history I want the world to see. Am I myself tripping here, or some people are completely detached from the reality? Because I see a lot of people talking about how Jolani is pushing for a harmonious society and everybody loves everyone and he's just a Hamam Salam, you know, the pigeon of peace. Like when people type things, is it, do they really mean it? What is happening? It's like, I see lots of them writing things like that.
My friend Kevork, this trip is planned by the USA. This visit is planned by the USA. Everybody who met with Jolani is planned by the CIA or the FBI or the national security of the administration. This is not a natural thing. They just knock on the door. Hey, I want to meet Jolani. Okay, come on in. Let's take a picture also. This is planned. Jolani, yesterday, the New York Times wrote an article about him, meeting with the community, the Syrian community in the United States. A lady stood and asked him a question.
Yeah.
When will my children be able to elect their own president? She was booed out, but he answered the question and he told her, democracy is a Western idea we don't have to follow. That's at New York Times wrote it. So the guy is telling you, and who was next to him? Barack. Thomas Barack was sitting next to him, you know? So, I mean, this is all fiasco for the people who just need grasping for any hope that thing is going to get better. Not knowing the struggle just started. Honest to God, the struggle just started for the Syrian now.
Akeel, my friend, we have to have you more often on our channel. I mean,
I'll be honored.
this is a brilliant conversation. What I am planning on doing, I do daily, by the way, between Monday to Friday, but I have created a show called Inside Syria, and we're going to do it the Monday of every last week of every month. So I would really love to have you more often on the channel alongside other Syrians. We're gonna have nothing off the limit. We're going to speak about everything and anything is ongoing in the country, because for me, it is rare to find people like yourself, very eloquent, very insightful, and patriotic. It is important so that we stick together and amplify the voices, because unfortunately on social media sometimes it is things are exaggerated and you get the impression that everyone is now with Jolani and everybody lost its mind. No, we exist, and there are probably millions of people silent, whether inside the country or outside. But rest assured, guys, they are watching us and they're sending emails and they're thanking us for speaking for them. And when we spoke about the courage, the people in Syria, I don't expect them to be courageous at all at the current moment, because they are under the mercy of Jolani. But if you're a Syrian in the diaspora, and if you have a voice, if you have a platform, I encourage you guys to speak up. Like, talk about it, report about it, tweet about it, start your own YouTube channel. It is important for us to become as a community together, because the alternative for it is division. I don't see any other way around, because alternative for it is people will come and tell you, "Awiyulak," bark. And they will put their feet and shoes over our neck and they will ask us to bark. And if they kill us, they will celebrate it. And this is the unfortunate truth I'm saying. And I wish more people like Akeel speak up. So thank you so much, Akeel, for coming really to the show. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. People were really very happy that you joined us. We will definitely have him back, my friends. And thank you so much for tuning in, guys, whether you watch this on YouTube or on Rumble. And special thanks to our friend Red Access for moderating the live chat. And also thank you so much, Sevag and Rami, for your generous support, guys. If you like this show and this conversation, and you would like this conversation to reach to more audience, the easy thing to do is just hit the like button and subscribe to this YouTube channel and send this conversation to your friends and colleagues. That would be amazing. So peace be upon you and upon your families, and I will see you tomorrow, guys. Salam.
Thank you.